So those are the top stories that we're tracking this afternoon. Well, this afternoon we have our ladies special on your stocks, where we will be answering queries from all our female investors. Joining in this afternoon, we have Prakash Kaba on the technicals and Mayuresh Joshi to answer all of the fundamental questions that we have. Afternoon, Prakash as well as Mayuresh. Welcome to the show. Well, let's get to our first query then. We have Bhagya Lakshmi, who calls us from Kerala, and she has investments in Sun Pharma. Hi, Bhagya Lakshmi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine. I have 75 shares of Sun Pharma at the rate of 610. I would like to know what to do right now.
Okay. How long are you okay with holding it for?
I am holding it since 3 years, from November 15.
Okay, but how long can you hold it in your portfolio?
I don't know. I can hold it for some more time. No problem. So 2 years or so I can hold.
Okay, so you can at least hold it for, I think, 2 more years. Mayuresh and Prakash, let's come to both of you all on this. And, you know, this is really the big story for today. Mayuresh, first to you, because Bhagya Lakshmi's buy price, it had, Sun Pharma had hit over 600 rupees last year in 2018, but then it fell from those levels as well. And at that point in time, you think probably the worst is over. You don't expect news such as this to come and, shake up your investment. But that's probably exactly what happened with her. What would you recommend? Do you see that maybe the stock could go back to those levels of over 600, or it's going to be a painful long period?
Afternoon, Ekta. Yes, I think you rightly put it through. I think with the new whistleblower complaints coming through, I think the reaction on the stock obviously is in tandem to what has probably come through. To add to that, I think what you had also witnessed a few weeks or months back in terms of the first so-called whistleblower complaint, I think these corporate governance issues are going to have an overhang, and they are in all likelihood going to shadow the fundamentals of this company over the medium term. So again, I think what actually comes out, both in terms of the management action plan, what probably comes out from a regulatory perspective as well, is obviously going to take a toll on the stocks. I think it's a very hard call to make at this point of time. It's been very, very painful, as you rightly pointed out. I think I'll still be better off in stocks within the financial space. I think stocks like ICICI is something that we are very, very comfortable on any sharp decline in these markets.
All right, that's if you hold it for the long term, keep doing an SIP and keep holding it for the long term at these levels. That's the word coming in from both our technical and fundamental guests on Aisha Motors. With that, we have another query coming in. Miss Vamsi writes to us from Bengaluru, holds about 1,000 shares of Future Consumer at 70 rupees for the last 1 year. Long-term investor wants to know whether to hold or sell. Mayuresh, your view on Future Consumer? It's the FMCG arm of the Future Group. Nearly 80 to 90% of the sales coming from Future retail stores itself. So, how would you view this stock?
No, so Mangalam, yes, I think you're right in terms of how the profiling is, specifically in terms of how the distribution happens. But you've also seen that there has been some amount of stability, specifically in terms of their gross margins. What the management also probably expect is a very sharp earnings growth over the next few years. So I think anywhere about 27-28% is something that can actually spurt the kind of momentum that the stock probably needs. Again, from a profitability perspective, I think you probably need to give it some more time. While the near-time valuations might appear to be expensive for the stock, considering the kind of numbers that they probably post, my own sense is that if you're probably looking at the kind of sales that they're doing and the kind of impact that the bottom line can have, specifically from an enterprise value perspective, I think there can be sufficient value in the stock, but again, I think it will happen and accrue over a longer period of time. So again, I think like the other stocks, I think patience, long-term view, hold on.
Okay, all right, Mayuresh and Prakash, well, we need to take
That's the view on Wipro as far as technicals are concerned. They report their results. Mayuresh, what are your expectations and what would you be watching out for?
So 2-3 broad parameters. Again, I think the guidance has largely been 1% quarter-on-quarter growth in dollar terms. What probably happens in terms of the IT services, both in terms of the top line growth on a reported basis and the EBIT margins thereof, which was very, very strong in the quarter gone by at 18%. I think that is going to be very interesting because the management still believes that the IT services EBIT will be in this range of 18-18.5%. On the BFSI and communications, when it comes to verticals, I think the management commentary is going to be extremely critical there. And the healthcare vertical as well, which is almost 13-14% of their overall revenues. I think the segment and the way we pan out is going to be a very clear-cut indication on the overall growth trajectory, specifically the revenue growth trajectory for this year as a whole. So again, digital life is here, almost 31-32% of the services revenue. What happens in terms of the return on shareholders, I think that is also going to be very, very quickly moving forward, and the guidance is there. So if they are able to up their guidance from 1.5 to 3.5, I think that will be taken positively. So I think from a valuation perspective, it's obviously better placed and stacked compared to peers. So again, I think the view is on a larger scale, I think, in the investment.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Mayuresh. Meanwhile, keep an eye out on the markets. The Nifty is back in the green, 10,906, above the 10,900 mark, and that's courtesy Reliance. 4.2% gains seen on that behemoth. So up around 4.5% for Reliance. Remember, yesterday the results came by, and the refining business was above expectations. We saw big growth come by in the retail business. Remember, 90% revenue growth, and retail business is value accretive as well. So Amita Iyer, with that we move on to the next query actually. Amita Iyer writes to us from Mumbai, holds about 150 shares of PFC at 124 rupees for the last 1 year. Long-term investor wants to know whether to hold or sell. Mayuresh, your view on PFC, because there is that impending deal, PFC, REC, and a whole lot of news surrounding that these two stocks.
So you're absolutely right. I think what happens probably with the merger synergies and the merger details as well, I think is going to be extremely critical. At the same time, when you're probably talking about the kind of leverage that the company will probably need to take to fund these requirements, I think what kind of a toll does that have specifically in terms of the P&L dynamics is something to be watched out for. The third element obviously is the kind of advances that both these entities have probably given out. So I think the private share and the kind of provisioning that they've done specifically in terms of asset quality has been very, very encouraging. But for the industry as a whole, I think the consistency that you're probably looking at in terms of growth on the advances side and the consistency that you're probably seeking in terms of the receivables actually improving is going to be a very, very critical component. So again, I think it's a very, very difficult call to make at this point of time, considering the macro environment, the challenges facing the industry as a whole, how the merger pans out, the synergies, and whether that can actually have some amount of impact on the balance sheet, the leverage that probably goes up because of the excessive raising that will be required to fund the overall buyout. I think all these factors might play out from a medium term. So in my opinion, I think the stock probably is stuck in a range at this point of time. I think other beta stocks, I think financials, as I mentioned, some of the cement names, the better placed cement companies from a valuation perspective, is something that the investors can look at as alternatives.
Okay, Mayuresh, just a quick take if you have. We're almost out of time.
Yeah, so she can hold on if she's a long-term investor. I think the issues surrounding the industry in general, I think for volumes, should normalize, as I said, in the case of Eicher as well. The kind of undercutting that they probably did in terms of entry-level bikes to gain market share, I think there you're probably seeing some amount of respite come through. The insurance premiums that probably went up because of pricing for third-party insurance, own damage, and the personal accident cover probably played out as well for two-wheelers. But generally, I think normalization of volumes over the next few months and improvement in margins should probably reflect in earnings.
Okay, all right. Mayuresh as well as Prakash, thanks very much for joining in this afternoon, taking us through all of those queries on our Lady Special on your stocks. Well, for the markets, definitely the mid-cap index is the one you need to watch out for. So there is pressure coming in, and the Nifty is also slipped below 10,900. We need to wrap up on the show. Watch out for a couple of stocks.